So let's talk about the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is, I think, one of the most fascinating psychological topic, um, and a profound topic to analyze for any intelligent thinking mind, any scholar, any philosopher. You should really look into the Mandela effect if, once you get us to a certain age. And before I start analyzing it, if you were to ever take the test, you should document your original thoughts and feeling. Like you might even want to record it as you are taking the test. Because the weird thing about it is that your original memory, or your very first memory as you are taking the test, that is the most pure and true memory of that original memory. So some of these Mandela effects could be as long as 20 years ago, 10 to 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that. So you are peering back into your childhood memories, probably for the first time. And that very first recollection or retrieval of that memory is the most accurate. If you take it, if you don't record it, and then you go back and reanalyze it and whatnot, because your mind start to ponder and think and analyze, is this the right one? Is this not the right one? What happened is that you will confuse your original memory, right? Because memories are memories. So once you access it and you start to analyze it and you start to think, additional memory, false memory, doubt and all that stuff starts to go in, and then your memory starts to be confused. It's very common. Um, they call it false memory, or I don't know the psychological term for it, or I can't recall it actually. So that's what my suggestion would be if you ever get a chance to analyze the Mandela effect. So what I want to talk about with the Mandela effect, and this is a very complicated topic, a fascinating topic, and obviously this is my first time going through it, so it's going to be a little bit harsh, because I'm trying to retrieve memories and stuff like that, and trying to analyze things for the very first time. Okay, so I'm using all of my analytical skill, engineering skill, mathematics, statistic and whatnot. So the very first thing that stand out to me about the Mandela effect is that it's relatively new. It started out in 2009 when a psychologist, I forgot the name of it, but a psychiatrist, a researcher, right? Actually, I'm looking at it right here. Fiona Braun discovered the effect in 2009 when she recalled that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 1980s, and she recalled be seeing the broadcast of Nelson Mandela, you know, the funeral or whatnot, because he died in prison. And it's interesting because just reading this right now, I'm like, I do remember he dying in prison as well. So it's self-fulfilling. Now, I don't know for a fact, right? Because I wasn't really big into Nelson Mandela. I don't really follow him or know him. But the memory is like, yeah, I do kind of, it's an inkling, right? And that's the thing about it is part of the Mandela effect is the intuition or the feeling of what it should be. And it's self-fulfilling almost, right? Because as I'm reading this, a memory of me way back when I was a kid, somehow I'm visualizing it that, yeah, Nelson Mandela, I did hear that Nelson Mandela died in prison, and there was some kind of big event about it. It's really fuzzy, but it's there. So, but the fact that the phenomenon, this whole Mandela effect, the phenomena is really relatively new. 2009, that's only like 15 years, less than 15 years. There has never been a global phenomenon, something that is like this, significant, that only happened within the last 15 years. Previous generation must have had this, must have seen things and remember things called false memories. So what do you categorize Mandela effect in its scientific term? The most obvious is false memory, what it should look like versus what it actually is. So it's a sort of like a mistake, right? Like the Fruit of the Loom logo with the cornucopia. Okay, that, for example, and let me see, I should start playing this video. Um, so like this guy, right? The um the Monopoly man with the monocle, the monocle in his eye. Um, he looks better with it, right? And than without it. Um, Actually, I can't look at this. This is distracting me, and I can't analyze it with it, unfortunately. So I need to go back to this. Um, I just make it bigger because I need to be able to think without the distraction. So yeah, so like the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia, right? If you look at the two, obviously, I would say like most people would choose with the cornucopia because it looks correct. It looks, the one without the cornucopia, just the fruits of the Fruit of the Looms with just the fruit logo, doesn't look correct. It looks like it's missing something. So, and if you look back into the history of it, the patent, it also had examples of the cornucopia. So why does the logo not have the cornucopia? Like, how would they make that mistake? And that is the one thing that really puzzling to me, because it's like, like 90% of the Mandela effect are like not, they're like false memories or self-fulfilling memories or intuitive memories, right? And I get them right, like Jif, peanut butter. I can go through all the top list. uh uh Curious George, Tale, for example, Sex in the City. It was never Sex in the City. I specifically remember seeing it as Sex in the City, and I was like, why do they call it Sex in the City? That is so weird, right? Oscar Mayer with the A, that is correct. Febreze, so most of these like Skechers without the T, and Fruit Loops, right? It's like FROOT, Fruit Loops. I remember that as well. So most of these memories, um, including like Kit Kat, another one. Um, so that's funny because most of these memories I get correct, a vast majority of them. And so the statistics side in me says, well, that's just pure statistics. If you're getting most of them correct, uh, that Mandela effect is not real. It's just a figment of your imagination. And I'm a big believer in statistics. However, I can't just, sometimes statistics this is where the intuition and the wisdom in me is just questioning it, right? Because yes, I know I get most of them correct, but still, there's something really bugging me about this Mandela effect. The cornucopia, for example, right? On the Fruit of the Loom, if you looked at the background behind it, the patent had a writing about the cornucopia, right? I wouldn't mind one day researching it or interviewing it. It's like, well, how could they not have the cornucopia? Especially when they originally talked about it and had it in their publication and their patents, right? The only thing I can think about is it was to save money, uh, because without the cornucopia, it's going to be cheaper to fabricate that logo onto, your underwear or whatnot. So that's a very sound, logical decision. In fact, just thinking about that right now, it does make a pretty good sense. And the more I think about it, right, like I can reverse my thought. It's like the spinning lady, the spinning ballerina, right? Is she spinning clockwise or counterclockwise? And I can flip them. I can flip her spinning one direction and then flip her to spin the other direction. So like now I'm like thinking about it, like the Fruit of the Looms. I kind of like now remember that without the cornucopia. But then the more I look at it, like if I look at the picture, the Fruit of the Looms is obviously, it looks so much better with the cornucopia than without, and that's why our memory has it. And the thing is, like, how much more expensive would it be to add that cornucopia? I don't know. Maybe one day somebody can answer that easily by interviewing. I'm pretty sure some of the original founders or people who work for the company is still there, and a deep dive into that. Like, why did you leave out the cornucopia? Like, how much money would you have saved to leave that out? Especially when it looks so much better with it. Did you have an illustration of the cornucopia? The answer is obviously yes. No, right? Because where did the cornucopia come from? It came from, if my memory of the cornucopia came from history. When I was taking history, and I first saw that when we were doing a lesson with the Pilgrim and the Native America, right? So it was associated with Thanksgiving, and every Thanksgiving that come around, that illustration with the cornucopia and the basket. I mean, yeah, I can call it a basket, a cornucopia of fruits. Was what it is, right? So it was always in my memory, and it's a very popular drawing, so to speak. Um, so yeah, I still don't understand. Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand if when the company started out, they wanted to save money, and not have the cornucopia, right? So that's that. But the thing that really still bugs me is statistics, right? Now, I get most of the Mandela effect tests correctly, a good 90% of them, right? But here's the thing: what if we exclude the one that are so strong and just looked at the one that are really strong, right? The most popular, the top of the top, which would be the Fruit of the Loom logo, would be one of them. The other one is the Mandela, which I can't really speak about because yeah, I just don't, I'm just not sure about it. Looney Tunes was the one that really puzzling to me because I specifically remember asking, what is a tune? Like what is a tune? And just recently I found out it's called tunes. Like right after I took the test, that was the first thing that came up was the memory of me asking, what is a tune? Um, but then when you look into it, it makes sense that it was always Looney Tunes because melody or whatever. I forget the background. I'm not gonna look it up. But the background was Magical Melody or something like that, and they went with Looney Tunes instead of Looney Tunes, which doesn't make any sense to me because if tunes is just short for cartoons and Looney Tunes makes the most sense instead of Looney Tunes versus Looney Tunes. It just doesn't make sense how they would make that mistake. And maybe that is part of the Mandela effect, is the fact that whoever made the decision to go with one or the other just made a mistake or did not even consider the most obvious, right? Had the original person who, started doing Looney Tunes saw the alternative, Looney Tunes with the two O's, and know that cartoons, tunes is short for cartoons, he would have obviously picked Looney Tunes because it looks so much better. It rhymes. It just, like that's the same thing with Fruit Loops, right? The two O. So it's Fruit Loops, two O's. Now, had the original been Fruit Loops, somebody would say, why didn't you call it Fruit Loops? Like Looney Tunes. So you can look at it both ways and say, it obviously could have been Looney Tunes. But it is Looney Tunes, right? And the converse of that would be, it obviously could be Fruit Loops, but it's not. It's Fruit Loops, right? So someone made the right answer with Fruit Loops, yet it's one of the top Mandela being Fruit Loops, which is weird. So the way the Mandela effect works, now that I'm thinking about it, is that both versions make sense. It's kind of like that spinning lady, right? She's spinning one way, and it's like, man, I swear she's spinning clockwise. I swear she's spinning clockwise. And then the other person who see her spinning counterclockwise says, she obviously spin counterclockwise. I see her, I'm looking at her, she's spinning counterclockwise. And I'm looking at her, I'm saying she's spinning clockwise. And so Looney Tunes and Looney Tunes, they can be one or the other. Same with Fruit Loops and Fruit Loops, right? So the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think that it is just a psychological thing with multiple variations, right? Like multiple explanations. Like the Curious George's tail. That's an obvious explanation. Yeah, I remember him without the tail, honestly. But I can see why people remember him with the tail, and then Pikachu tail as well, right? It looks so much better with the black design, rather than having nothing. Same with the Monopoly Man. And now that I'm looking at the Monopoly Man, yeah, I do remember him without the moniker. I do remember him without the moniker. So, you know, it is unfortunate. The more I'm thinking about it and analyzing it, the Mona Lisa smile, she didn't really have a smile at all. It's like a very faint smile. And CP3 leg, That's a weird one because it's the silver leg always look golden to me because of the poor quality. So you're never gonna see it as silver anyway because it was reflecting off his other leg. Flintstones. It should be two T's. It is two T's. So the other one that gets to me was the Volkswagen design, and I specifically remember the Volkswagen, the V and the W connected. It didn't make sense to me why, and of course, yeah, the Volkswagen logo, Mandela. I'm gonna look that up real quick. Like, so the thing about the logo is that now that I need to think about it a little bit more. But yeah, this picture here it is, right? There is a picture. I'm looking right at it. That the connection and once I click on it, it goes away for some reason. But yeah, I'm gonna search a Google image because I want to see this guy. Find source image. Huh. Every time I find the source, here it is. Like that's what I remember was the V and the W being connected. And then this other picture without it, but it's still like it does still look like it connected. But then they just put a and that's the thing, right? It does still look like it's connected, but then they just put a bevel or black marker. So I could have easily not saw the black marker because the perimeter of it is black as well, right? The outline is black because it's not like it's kind of like if you look at it at an angle, you can see the black outlines of it. And so the V and the W, the fact that it's separated by a very small black beveled uh, divider kind of make it looks, kind of gets you confused that it looks like it's connected. So it's a good explanation, it seems like the more I look into this, there's always a good explanation for why I remember it the way it wasn't, or the way I remember it wasn't the original. Like I had a memory of it that wasn't correct. But the more I look into it, it's like I can understand why I made that mistake. And then there's other images where they are connected. And I'm like, that doesn't, that looks correct, but it doesn't look as good as well, right? So now I'm looking at the images where they're not connected, and it doesn't look as good as the no the I'm looking at the image where they are connected, and it doesn't look as good as the image without it. So I'm confusing myself again. Um, the other one is Holly from the movie. Is it Holly or Dolly? Yeah, Dolly from the movie. Um, Braces. Dolly Braces Mandela, and that's a James Bond's movie Moonraker. And here's the thing about it, right? We all remember her with braces. Specifically, when I first saw this Mandela, I say, yeah, I specifically remember her with braces. But the more I looked into it, it's the way she smiled, and there were spaces in her teeth. And when I saw this, it was probably, well, back in the 80s on the tube. I mean, when did Moonraker come out? I don't even remember, but I definitely saw it on the tube, the TV tube, which is a CRT tube. Um, and so the quality wasn't real good. And I remember when she opened her teeth, her smile was just weird looking. So it just looked like she had braces on, you know. So that's why my memory of her had braces. And there are, if you look on YouTube, there are, you know, a video where they go into Dolly and the guy with the metal teeth. And if you look closely, every time she does a small smile or something, it does look like she has braces on. It's just the way her mouth and her teeth has spaces, and the way she smiled really big, like the Joker or whatever. She just looked like she had braces on. But honestly, because I want so much to believe in this simulation universe, um, because the more I think about it, the more I just think like we're in a simulation, right? Like every time I look at experiments and physics experiment where they're coming out data and they say, you know what, the only way this information rendered the way it is if the light went back in time. When it bounced, the reflection, it goes back in time to give the signature of the results. And we talking about um, the split gate experiments in physics, where lights would go through, and if you measure it, it'll look like a wave. But if you don't measure it, um, it looks like two discrete, lines. And and then there's other things like, to me, the entanglement just seems like we're in a simulation to me. The entangled particle and the explanation, the explanation that a lot of physicists give on why these particles um are entangled, and that the math behind it is that the math behind the entanglement is one wave theory or one wave equation. And so even though it's two particles, it's just really one particle, because they're bound by a wave function. So no, you built a entangled particle. You create an entangled particle, so it's created to have opposite spin. So when you measure one, the other one has to be the opposite spin, regardless of the distance, regardless if you bring it like infinity away, it's instantaneous. And to me, that's like, I just having a hard time grasping that. Now I understand the math behind it, that it's one wave function, one wave equation. They are bound regardless. But there's got to be a better explanation to explain it to me, that this isn't really a proof, or not a proof, but this isn't a really strong indication of a simulation. And I think as time goes by, we can see more and more complicated, like just really, really complicated examples that we're living in a simulation. When I first heard of the simulation theory, I thought it was nonsense. I really thought it was nonsense, especially when Elon Musk, who I don't really, I think he's an idiot. It's just like the way he talks, everything about him. He just didn't sound very smart to me. And it's like, this guy think we're living in a simulation. What a goober. But hey, he may not be as dumb as I think he is. Like the fact that, oh, he may just get lucky. I don't know. Like, why does he think we live in a simulation? Why are some of the top scientists, some of the smartest minds out there, think we're living in a simulation? And why am I wondering, and why am I pondering it too, right? Like, why am I thinking there's a really good possibility we're living in a simulation? Is it because, you know, we have higher analytical skill, thinking, processing skill, or we're just arrogant in our belief? Like, we're just narcissistic. We want to believe in something that it seems like the flat earth effect, right? A lot of people think the earth is flat, and that's a common Dunginger Kruger, right? People who think they're way smarter than what they are. But Dunning-Kruger can apply to anybody, right? It can apply to the 0.1%. Anytime you think something that is beyond your capability and you self-fulfill it to want to believe in it because it's like aha, right? Yeah, I'm so much smarter than you. Therefore, I have to, because I'm so much smarter than you know, I believe that this is the right thing, even though it's far-fetched. So it may just be that, right? Commonality is something I always look for. Like, I always look for commonality because I'm a big person in statistics. I always look for what is the concrete, what do we know, and what is the statistics that tell us, right? And it's weird that Elon Musk and myself, I don't believe as much as what Elon says, right? He says like it's a 99% chance, but he's very narcissistic, right? He's very arrogant. He's very narcissistic. I'm nowhere close, but obviously I'm gonna have some level of narcissism and arrogance. And so I say 50-50, but I could just be confusing myself as well, right? Because it's very self-fulfilling. A lot of things is very self-fulfilling. Like you look for answer, and same with the flat Earth people. They look for answer and they can explain anything, but with this aha, like look at this experiment. Look how water finds its level. Look how the moon and the sun are the same shape. You can use anything to self-fulfill your theory. Um, but yeah, I'm still kind of annoyed that the Mandela effect was discovered in 2009. It's so new to me, and it kind of correlates with the Large Hadron Collider when the HLC started running experiments and stuff. And so I don't know. I don't understand why it was so early. Like why isn't there an example of Mandela effect prior to 2009? There must have been. It's just people didn't really think about it, right? Or they didn't do the study to analyze it. I bet if somebody did the study to it, there, there probably had been people prior to 2009 that were confused just the same. Um, because like I said, it's a combination of things, and right, I don't know which one is the top Mandela effects, but the one I'm going through, the list that I go through, I get 90% of them correct. So if I believe in statistics, that's telling me, hey, this can't be a real thing. It's just false memory, it's self-fulfilling, it's just intuition, right? Like it looks like it's just mistakes. And when I mean mistakes, I mean it should look like this, but it's not. Like Pikachu tail is a mistake, right? Or Curious George is a mistake. Or the Fruit of the Loom logo is a mistake. But every one of them, now that I'm looking through it, I have a good explanation on why I thought the way I do. So if I put the one I get correct and the one I have an explanation to, I got 100% of the test correct. So if I have 100% of the correct, why am I still questioning this Mandela effect? Why am I still believing in the simulation theory, and why the whole Mandela thing is a either alternate reality or an alternate simulation that would switch on us at a certain time, and that's why we have memories of it. um the actual memory of it is correct, but now it got switched on us, because that's the more I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking because it's such a fascinating idea, and I so much want it to be correct that I am almost ignoring the statistics of what I'm seeing right now as I take the test, as I analyze it, right? I do want to be able to one day, bring this test to some of the sharpest minds, some of the brightest minds out there who hasn't taken the test, and I want to see that person recollection of, and I'm pretty sure the answer is gonna be what I'm thinking about it. But like the origin, like the problem is a lot of people now, this whole Mandela effect. A lot of people are getting older and older, right? And the more I wait, people are gonna be in their 50s and 60s and 70s. So once you're at that age, everything is kind of confused. So you can easily confuse yourself and say, I don't really know. So I think, I think the Mandela effect is going to be uh, dead, meaning there won't be any new Mandela effect. Like whatever you see right now in the Mandela effect, that's it. Like going forward, we're not gonna have something because we're astute to it, right? So we know about it, so we're paying attention, and people don't make mistakes like they do in the past, right? Like it's very hard now to make a mistake the way they make with the Fruit of the Looms or with Pikachu, because when somebody develop a logo or someone develop a icon or a publication, they're gonna go through the gamut and have different illustrations, and they're gonna do peer review, and they're gonna have a third company testing it and looking through it, and so the chance of someone making a mistake is gonna be a lot less. Like like the Monopoly Man, for example. Like every one of these Mandela effects, if we were to develop them today, they will come out the way we think they are, because people won't make that mistake. So I'm just gonna wrap it up. I'm thinking, yeah, there's a pretty good analytical. I always think I was gonna do a bad job of this Mandela effect, but um, I think I did a pretty good job personally. That I was able to analyze it on the fly and get to a solution that I'm happy with, which is it's unfortunate, but yeah, yeah, I don't think it's a good. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it's a good. The statistics do not lie. The fact that I get 100% of them correct with a good explanation on them, it's gonna say what it is, right? It's not a simulation. I just still don't like the fact that it was so new in 2009. But again, that's one thing. Discoveries come about. Um, Obviously, just because it was discovered in 2009 doesn't mean it was happening way before that. It just wasn't popular, or someone didn't bring it about, right? And that's the whole phrase. If you make it, they will come. If you create it, if you're the first one to create it, it's going to be a thing. That happens for everything, for Facebook, for Google, for Apple, and for the Mandela effect. And just because it's relatively new doesn't mean it wasn't there in the past. So that's gonna wrap that up. Okay.